Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Comblusier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities, Inc. Today's webinar focuses on Defiance Silver Corp, which is focused on advancing its San Acacio and Tapal projects in Mexico. Today I have with me on the webinar Chris Wright, Chairman and CEO, and Doug Cavey, the Vice President of Corporate Development and Senior Technical Advisor. The format of today's webinar will be first, Chris and Doug will provide an update on Defiance Silver, including an update on the drill program underway at its San Acacio Silver project and an overview on its recent acquisition of the Lucida project from Pan American Silver. The second part will take questions live, so please send us your questions via the chat and we'll get to as many as we can. You can type your questions in at any time throughout the webinar. Presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Defiance Silver specific disclosures. So now I'll turn it over to Chris and Doug to update you on Defiance Silver and what investors have to look forward to with this company.
Good, thank you, Taylor. Appreciate that, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. And we appreciate your interest in Defiance Silver. As Taylor mentioned, we will be making forward-looking statements, so please be aware of that. Defiance Silver, for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a Mexican-focused exploration and development company. We have two projects. One is our Zacatecas Silver project, located near to Zacatecas in the state of Zacatecas in central Mexico. The other is our Tapal gold copper asset in the state of Michoacan. And Doug will get into both those assets and talk to you about those in a few minutes. I'd like to just give you maybe a little bit of background on myself and my involvement with the company. I'm not a geologist, I'm not a technical person, I'm a finance person. I come to the Defiance story by way of my investment firm, Windermere Capital. We made our initial investment into Defiance Silver back in 2014 when the world was in a very different state for the junior mining sector. It was very difficult. We took a majority stake in the company back then, really with an eye to working with the company to help bring along their San Acacio or Zacatecas Silver project at the time, which was their primary asset, and get it through the bear market and bring it back out into the fold when things improve. So fast forwarding to the spring of 2019. That's when I joined the board as chairman. A couple of months after that, I stepped into the role of CEO. After a short couple of months of really working on improving the company's balance sheet and fixing some of the legacy financial issues that the company had accrued over the last 5 years of the bear market, we set to turn our attention to the underlying assets. We still had the San Acacio or Zacatecas Silver asset. We had acquired the Tapal gold copper project at the end of 2018 through a merger with Valoro Resources. And we wanted to get a very clear idea of what these assets could potentially mean to the company. And that's where Doug and his team come into the story. We were fortunate enough to attract them over and give them the mandate to really tear these assets apart, pull no punches, and tell us what we had. Were these things any good? Should we be dealing them? Should we be keeping them? If we're going to keep them, how should we best move those projects forward? So I'm happy to report that clearly we decided that we were going to keep them. We've been hard at work over the last 15 months or so moving these projects forward. And we've had a very, very busy 2020, especially the second half of 2020. Having had to rework things after a very difficult start, as everybody's been going through this global pandemic. We were fortunate enough to close a very strong financing in September last year. We raised just over $10 million, and then we're able to get working on on our programs to the end of the year. We had some of the other major milestones that we were able to tick off. We were very fortunate to. We feel fortunate to have Doug and the OrQuest team sign on to permanent roles with the company, and has upgraded our management and VPX corporate development and geologist side of the business. We were able to close an acquisition of the Lucita project adjacent to our San Nicasio project in Zacatecas. We were also able to start a drill program at the beginning of December, which is going very well, and Doug will update you on how that's going and what we see over the coming months. And then finally, just before the holiday, we were able to negotiate the acquisition of the 2.5% NSR that was outstanding on our Topal project. So very, very busy Q4, and we expect the activity to continue here in 2021. There's lots on the go. But before I turn it over to Doug to talk about the projects, the work that's being done, and the plan ahead, I'll just run through the existing share structure with you. As we mentioned, that there was a financing closed in September. We have had a number of warrants that have been exercised between the closing of that financing and the end of the year. So we finished the year with just a little more than $10 million in the bank, approximately 192 million shares outstanding. Institutional ownership stood at about 35%, and just full disclosure, my company, Windermere Capital's funds, own approximately 27% of the company at this time. So with that, I will turn it over to Doug to take you through the projects.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for the overview. As Chris said, we're relatively new, about 16 months to the company now. It's been a very busy 16 months. However, we're very familiar with operating in Mexico, and I've been very happy with the ongoing advancements of our role and the technical team that we've built up in the country. We have, as Chris talked about, we have two projects in Mexico, one located in Zacatecas, just outside of Zacatecas City, one located in Michoacan, just outside of the town of Tepalcatepec. There is about 4.5 hours north of Guadalajara and 4.5 hours southwest of Guadalajara, and Guadalajara is the second largest city in Mexico. They're both different projects in their own way, shape, or form. They're both advanced assets. One is an epithermal silver epithermal project, and one's a intrusion-related or porphyry epithermal project. One's a silver-dominant project, San Nicasio, and one's a gold-copper-dominant project at Topal. As I said, they're both advanced in their own way, shape, or form, and we'll highlight how that comes out in the next couple of slides here. When we got brought into the project, there was a few targeting components and really just a lot of due diligence that needed to be done on the historical work that was done at San Nicasio. And as Chris said, we liked what we saw, and we saw the opportunity to really grow on the camp and the district and what that meant for Defiance Silver's land position. And we quickly identified that camp consolidation was key in this district, and that was one of the kind of the key points that we brought up early on in the days. And we started these discussions to acquire these projects early on, and it was started in March of 2020. Our Zacatecas district projects are located in Zacatecas, Mexico. Zacatecas is the largest silver producing state in Mexico, and Mexico is the largest silver producing country on purchase and sale agreement with Mag Silver. And as well, our Lucita project, which Chris mentioned that we acquired in December, expanded the known depth extents of the deposit. And actually, since December until as of yesterday, we're about 1,500 meters into the current program. The projects are located on the Veta Grande and Malanoche veins, two very prolific veins in the district. It's a 1 billion ounce silver camp. The Veta Grande vein produced over 150 million ounces historically. The Malanoche vein is actually currently under large development at the Capstone mine, 6,000 ton per day operation owned by Capstone, called the Cozamin mine. The drilling that's been done since Defiance Silver's involvement has produced some interesting wide silver intercepts, and we are currently looking at including that into an updated resource estimate. The project itself is blessed with tremendous infrastructure. You can drive to the project on a paved road from Zacatecas City. It takes about 15 minutes. You can be in the office 15 minutes after you're on the drill site. There's power to the property. There's been active mines within 60 meters of our property boundary. There's there's over 20,000 tons of milling capacity within 25 kilometers of the project. It's really a very mining-friendly area. It's got a long, over 450-year history of almost continuous production in the belt. So a very good place to look for projects, a very good place to develop projects, advanced exploration projects, and just a very easy place to work in terms of mineral exploration. We like to think of this project as Fresnillo from the 1960s. It's a very similar crustal position and crustal blocks. Fresnillo was out of ore in the 1960s. It's currently the world's largest primary silver mine. And in 1960s, actually late 1970s, they're at the Veta Grande project looking for mill feed. They stepped back, discovery-focused geoscience, discovered Santo Niño vein, and that kicked off 40 plus years of prolific exploration and development, really bookended by the recent discoveries by Mag Silver on the Juanicipio joint venture with Fresnillo. When we were brought on the project, we did what really was effectively strip this project down to the foundations, get the data into a usable format. Multiple operators over 20 years had a very messy database, and we got it into a place that we could begin to do some 3D modeling on it, and we have since updated a lot of the 3D modeling. What we noticed right away with the surface mapping, surface geology, and 3D modeling is that we took this model and we began to think about, what does that mean for the mineral system? What does that mean? Where are we in the mineral system? And that's what we're looking for. Is this is the Veta Grande vein system. We're proponents for the big picture idea, and we're always looking for the mineral system concept. So let's put ourselves in the mineral system as your only idea. We do have a long list of targets we'd like to get to with our exploration diamond drilling program, but within this drill permit area, there are Veta Grande footwall and then the hanging wall veins and the deep targets of the Veta Grande. The proof of concept, or what we're looking for here, is effectively analogous to the Santo Niño vein discovery done by Fresnillo in the 1975. As a result of your discovery-focused geoscience that was done, they locked in as 300-meter blind discovery, 3 meters of 1,000 grams silver, 1.6 grams gold, and % combined lead zinc. We've seen very similar numbers on our property so far, up to 3,000 grams per ton silver, up to 1.5 grams or up to half a gram gold, 5% combined lead zinc, and all of these are occurring in the hanging wall of the Veta Grande. So we've got a drill on site in this area right now. We're actively targeting this. Our senior geologist, Mr. Miguel Davila, he's been working with us, or has been working with WorkWest and the project since our involvement day one. He was the first person I phoned when I came down here. He's known as a very excellent mapping geologist in Mexico, and that's what he's been doing a lot of since getting here. And he mapped out a structure on the property very similar to what the Malanoche footwall zone at Capstone's mine looks like. It's a rhyolite or a felsic structure, fault structure that runs for multiple kilometers across the property, and we think it's an expression of a deeper buried vein system. And so we've been targeting that with some drilling. In this system, where this drilling has intersected the hanging wall mineralization, I have a photograph there. It does run good grades over good width, 7.25 meters of 631 gram per ton silver. So really nice wide targets that we're picking up on this property. So far, we've got a couple holes into the structure, and we'll keep the drill there for a little while. The next thing that we've noticed, and really what has been a big part of this multiple vein events or multiple vein systems, there is two known big events in this camp. We think there's a third known event in this, or there's a third previously unrecognized event in this camp that's brought a lot of silver and brought a lot of base metals into the system. Where we're seeing it is in different drill holes higher than the Veta Grande structure, where we're seeing millimeter scale but very high grade veins running up to 700 grams per ton, and they're cross-cutting where they're later than the phase of mineralization that carried the Veta Grande vein system. So again, we have drill targets that are targeting this system as well. These green lines that are actually on one of Miguel's hand-drawn maps, which are kind of fun to show up into the office at the end of the day and see. But you can see these green lines here. These are our proposed drill holes, both into the Veta Grande, or both into the Veta Morada, or this fault structure that we're targeting, and then into this blind target and this buried target at depth. So we like the mineral systems concept, but we're testing the structures, and we're testing these structures that have a lot of proof of concept with Malanoche, with Fresnillo, and getting a deep drill hole into them, or getting wide space drills, or getting true exploration holes into the camp. And so far, we're liking what we're seeing. We'll continue to test that within the program. As well, what we did notice in this 3D modeling, again, a hand-drawn, we can show you the 3D models here, but the hand-drawn section here, the high priority holes in 2017, they missed the target depth of the Veta Grande. The vein extension that would go where there has been, previously mined intervals that are wide, 20-meter wide stopes that are backfilled at 200 grams per ton silver. The vein or the design holes just didn't hit those depths. So we've got some holes planned to test the vertical extent of the system. Over at Capstone, they've got over 1,000 meters of mineralization on their property. We haven't gotten below 400 meters in ours, so we do have a nice vertical profile, vertical exploration profile that we would like to test with this upcoming program. We have an operating relationship with Major Drilling that they've brought a good drill onto site where they've drilled, in other parts of the world, especially here in Mexico at the Bismarck mine in Chihuahua, 2,200 meter deep holes. So we don't see any problem getting down to the target cuts, which are no more than 1,000 meters, often 500 to 700 meters. So that's the more focused in on the historical workings of the Veta Grande. The most recent news on Santa Casio, or Zacatecas district, was really the acquisition of the Lucita project. So in 2018, we acquired Mag Silver's Zacatecas district land holdings. We also acquired their database, and we aimed to use that database to target additional projects. The Lucita project became very apparent to us as what we think is our most high priority exploration target in the district. And we approached Pan American last March. We had a previous operating relationship with them, so we were able to go in with a pretty friendly introduction, or a pretty friendly arrangement. And we basically just said, we want to acquire your projects here in Zacatecas. It tripled our land position. We have an option to acquire 100% ownership, and it strengthens the land position to about a quarter of the historical Zacatecas district. There is some pretty good anchor points of the acquisition. We have the drilled on-strike extension of the Panuco deposit, which has recently been acquired by a company called Zacatecas Silver. They've indicated that they're going to aggressively drill the Panuco deposit. And so we have that drilled on-strike extension, so we'll watch and see what's happening over there. That wasn't our highest priority target in the district. It was, in fact, the Palenque structure, which is a well-mineralized, undrilled multi-kilometer target within a stone's throw of some historical workings. So we do have some work followed up on this project here. What is the Palenque structure? Well, it's a 4-kilometer long, up to 12 meter wide vein system that runs up to 700 grams per ton silver at surface. It was identified as a set of this regional targeting that we were doing. It's never been drilled, which is almost unheard of in a camp like this, where you have, a huge amount of underground workings, a ton of mining, a ton of exploration going on, resources all over the place, and it's never seen a drill hole, largely because it's been in the hands of Pan American Silver since the 1980s, and they've been focused elsewhere. Adjacent to our Santa Casio project, in fact, you can see the Tuares vein there. It gives us the extension, or it gives us expansion on our Tuares vein set as well. And we know that this is one of Pan American's top exploration projects, top greenfields exploration targets in Mexico, and just largely the shape of the company, what happened with their Tahoe acquisition, they focused their attention a lot more on near mine exploration targets, La Colorada at Escobal down in Guatemala, and as well as their Peruvian operations. So kind of sat as an orphan for a while, and we think of that as a tremendous opportunity. In fact, just on the closeology of that, underneath that legend, the silver grams per ton legend, is the tailings operation from one of the historic Veta Grande mines. So it's it's less than a kilometer away from the tailings tailings storage facilities from one of the old operations. It's very rare that you can go into a camp that's this well recognized, this well known, this level of advanced work, and pick up an undrilled structure that's over 4 kilometers long. We put some points on there just to show how mineralized it is. We've put every single sample point on there. The hot colors are everything over 70 grams per ton silver. So you can see it's a very well mineralized structure, and it's got a lot of good grade on it. Again, blessed with the same infrastructure advantages of working in Zacatecas. There's that highway that cuts in between the two properties. That's the autopista, or a toll highway. And we have roads accessing this Palenque structure. There's some historical workings there as well. So we have an aggressive exploration program planned for 2021. Surface geochemistry. We have an excellent partnership with a company called GES in Mexico, run by some very skilled geoscientists. And they've been doing our surface geochemistry at Santa Casio. We'll continue to work with them over here. We have surface geophysics plan, and of course, some near-term diamond drilling. We do have this 5,000 meter drill program planned at Santa Casio. The success of the financing in September does allow for us to increase that budget, that meterage budget, to about 10,000 meters, and I wouldn't be surprised if we could get 2,500 meters over at Palenque. It's within the same ejido that we have a positive 10-year working relationship with at our San Acacio project. So excellent that we're a friendly face and that we have a positive working relationship with this ejido. So what is our strategy? Much the same as if we spoke with you or in our last webinar. We are going to drill these deep targets along the Veta Grande. We do have this need to see these milestone ounce thresholds. In the case of the San Acacio part of the project in the Veta Grande, we want to see 50 million ounces there, and that's what we were targeting with our acquisition of Palenque. We see the size of the system, we see the metal tenor of the system, we see that this can be that gap to fill that extra 50 million ounces plus, because we are in the end looking for a 100 million ounce silver system on this property. We are going to drill the hanging wall structures in and around the previously identified mineralization, but as well these structural offsets and these other map structures that we think are very similar to some of our neighboring properties, and what that means for true exploration in the district, and ultimately looking for ounce building targets. We need to understand what the mineral events are of this property, what the mineral system is, and where are we in the mineral system. You're only going to find metal in certain parts of the system, so we want to identify and fingerprint where we are. So we have the property-wide surface geochemistry program, as I mentioned with our partners, GES. They are, I would say, almost 75 or 80% through the way of that project, and that's we're doing trace element geochemistry, so we can figure out and identify what the alteration halos are, and then spread that across the district so that we can target, additional targets within our Palenque land package or our Lucita land package at Lagartos, just south of us on the Malanoche claims. We have a 5,000 meter budget, as I said, testing these targets that we went over, but we will likely increase that budget to 10,000 meters over the next 12 months. So that does mean a steady flow of information, steady flow of news coming up. We have the first 1,500 meters done. We could expect to see some results in 6 to 8 weeks on those, I hope, pending what the lab has in store for us. So March onwards, you can expect that you'll start to see some of that initial news flow off of the drill program. We also are applying additional permit applications. As I said, we have a target list on this property on the San Acacio and the Lucita licenses that is more than we could hit with a 10,000 meter program. So it's a very good position to be in. And I suspect that we'll start to get some news flow over our targeting and what we're going to do with the drill bit next outside on these more called regional targets within the district. So that's a lot about the San Acacio project. It's a 400-year mining history. T'Pol, advanced stage project, but a very different beast. It was discovered in the 1960s. It was by regional generative exploration. It's been in the hands of a number of majors, most recently Teck, and then the junior that we purchased it from, Geologics Exploration or Valoro Resources. We purchased it in 2018 with 100% ownership of this project. We recently entered into an option agreement with the underlying 2.5% NSR vendor or owner to purchase that 2% and a 2.5% NSR, so it could be a clear path to 100% ownership of this project. It's got a measured indicated resource of 1.8 million ounces of gold and 812 million pounds of copper, so it's a large deposit. We spent historically about $27 million been spent on the property, about 60,000+ meters of drilling. Had a PFS done in 2012, PEA done in 2013, and updated PEA done in 2017. So a lot of good technical literature supporting a very positive operating scenario on this project. Infrastructure is great. There's 50 megawatts of power available within 8 kilometers of the project. And unlike San Acacio and Lucita, where surface rights are held by a variety of different people, surface rights are held by private landowners at T'Pol. The 2017 PEA demonstrates some great economics on this project. It's got a post-tax NPV of $169 million US, post-tax IRR 24%, payback of 2.3 years. That's based on $1,250 gold and $250 copper. Every time the gold price goes up $250, the NPV of the project goes up $100 million. So 1,375 gold, $1,500 gold, we have those sensitivities, but $1,500 gold, $3 copper may be a more usable number in this gold market. It's a $345 million post-tax NPV. We purchased this project for $4.2 million in stock, about $1.39 per ounce equivalent. So truly an accretive transaction in the last gold market, on the bottom of the last bear market. And what does that mean? What is our thesis on this project? We see this project as being able to produce 100,000 ounces a year over 10 years. Currently, it's about 79,000 ounces average and 32 million pounds of copper over 10 years. So it's not a massive increase that we're going for. I think it's a very achievable goal. Life of mine right now is 10 years, $214 million initial capital cost. It's a combination oxides heap leach mine and a traditional sulfide milling circuit as well. And the life of mine per cash all-in sustaining cost, $396 per ounce. So that's a lot lower than the sort of 900 to 950 that you're seeing in some of the larger companies. And it is one of the lower cash costs, PEA level cash cost producers in Mexico. We have a back to the bar graph here. You can see that after year 5, your production drops off pretty significantly, and that your cash costs go up. So our 100,000 ounce a year thesis is not by taking ounces from the front end and spreading them across the back end. It's by adding these ounces organically. And what are we going to do that? So we kind of have a two-pronged approach on how we're going to achieve that goal. Some of the highest value NSR rock on the property is located outside of the pit boundaries, the conceptual pit boundaries of the south pit. It's up to, there's some good grade in there, 104 meters of 1.45 grams gold, 0.4% copper, 112 meters of a gram gold, 0.38% copper. These have never been included into the PEA or into the production scenario, largely because they're inferred ounces at the time. So just getting some drilling into that, getting some understanding. This project has always been looked at as a copper porphyry, which it does have some components of a copper porphyry, but that's not what the system is. It's an intrusion-related, structurally hosted gold system. So that porphyry style model really did skew what the drilling was doing in the past, a lot of vertical holes. So we do want to get some more oriented drill holes into the system, understand what the structures are doing to control the gold mineralization. And that has been leading what our targeting has been going on for the last 2 months. So we are going to do some grade control drilling within the proposed pits, but also these targets at depth, and hopefully get these ounces that are in the inferred category and any additional ounces bumped up onto the project, or bumped up onto the resource estimate. But outside of those, call them more near-term or palpable ounces that are just below the conceptual pits, we've been doing we've had a large targeting initiative, a lot of desktop work going and stripping again this thing down and looking at the systems genesis and where we have targets outside of the main conceptual pits for the 2017 PEA. What we are looking for are actual development targets, stuff that is will fit into the development plan, that aren't a way off a fourth or a fifth pit that needs to be developed, but just expansion outside of our known target areas. It has been demonstrated, and up to in historical drilling, there are some what we believe are epithermal feeder zones to the Zacatecas pit, grading up to 25 grams per ton silver and 25 grams per ton gold and 565 grams per ton silver. So high-grade gold targets that can add, tonnage and now add ounces to the resource estimate quite quickly, and that was discovered on drilling within the pit boundaries of the Zacatecas pit, underlain by large chargeability anomalies and high alteration indices. So we like those targets. Another target that we've drummed up over the last 2 months is this mid-zone target, and that's on the left-hand side of this image. It's the hottest alteration on the property, so associated to large possibly the intrusion center, or what may have carried the mineralization for the north and south pit. It's located in between the two pits, and it hasn't seen a drill hole. That is important, as we are seeing the building, building resource at the south pit. It could be related to the emplacement of this intrusion, and in between these two pits is where that target exists, and it's never seen a drill hole. Considering on this map, you can see the north zone and the south zone have been perforated with drill holes, as they are two of the larger operating or proposed pits in the 2017 PEA. This represents a very excellent development target for us, and we'd like to get on the exploration diamond drilling program here in the next 12 months at Topal. So with that, what's the background and what are we trying to do? And what does our company look like now? We're a very unique company in that we have 2 advanced assets in Mexico. Both have resource base and resource building potential. Our management team is a proven and very experienced management team with decades of exploration success. It's led to mine development, M&A, and so we know what we are trying to do here. We know what we're trying to build out here, and we do chart a course with very much a phased approach, or incrementally de-risking these projects through very achievable milestones along the way. We have, as most precious metal companies do, a leverage to precious metal prices, but as we touched about the Topal gold price sensitivity, especially, and now in this copper environment, the copper price sensitivity to the market we do have a tremendous upside in advancing this project in this market. And then we have that substantial resource upside at the Zacatecas projects, where we do have near-term resource building drill holes within the current resource area, and we have these very real targets that we think can add ounces quite quickly to the project. As Chris touched upon, we're very highly aligned with our shareholders. Chris's firm, Windermere, over 25% the last financing that we did, brought in 8 new institutions, and representing about 35% is institutional shareholding. So we're really looking forward to delivering for these shareholders, and we're very communicative with them as well. So as we say with everybody, give us a call and let us know what you think, and we take that very seriously. And maybe the most important thing is that we have drill-ready exploration targets on both of our properties. We have a drill permit in Santa Casio. We're currently drilling. It's about 6 kilometers away from where I'm sitting right now. This afternoon, we're going to go look at the drill core. And we have a target list of, that keeps building every day on our Santa Casio and Zacatecas projects. Over at Topal, we have very high priority ounce building targets that we aim to get involved into this, get wrapped up into this resource estimate to demonstrate the potential for it to be a 100,000 ounce a year producer. And that's everything on us. You can check us out on social media. We've got channels across the board, website. Please add your name to our info list if you want some further information. And if you have any additional questions, please reach out to us on any of these channels, and look forward to hearing some of the questions that we've got in this webinar. So thank you very much for tuning in.
Great. Thank you both, Chris and Doug. So now we'll turn to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So just a reminder to everybody on the line that you can type your question in at any point now in the chat box. So maybe we've had a couple questions kind of come in kind of along the you mentioned you have a little over $10 million in the bank right now, and with drilling ongoing at Santa Casio, and you indicated that there's the potential to expand that. Is all of your drilling through this coming year funded, and or do you anticipate having to do another raise?
Yeah, I'll take that, Doug, if you don't mind. Yes, the current budget with the increased drilling is fully funded for the next 12 months. We do still have some flexibility if we wanted to accelerate the program and increase it even more. So while we are an exploration company, and just by the very nature of that, we will at some point be looking to raise more funds. The company finds itself in a bit of a good place that it's really never been accustomed to before, and that we do have some financial flexibility. We can choose at this point, when and where we want to go back to the market, at least for the next 12 to 12 plus months. So we're in a good spot right now.
Right, and are you planning to do drilling at Topal this year, and would that be included in that figure?
We do have a full budget for a workup on Topal, but I'll let Doug deal with the calendar. It's all driven by the technical team.
Well, as I've mentioned and really allude to, we don't like to get the cart before the horse, and we set out with a full project workup based on our understanding of the structural control of the gold mineralization and what that means. And so we've done effectively that first, or what we can do on a desktop, and we're starting to bring down some of the people that were helping with us on that. And we will begin with similar crew of people that are working with us at Santa Casio, working up those targets so that we can drill our best targets first, and that takes time. Right now we're very active at Santa Casio, so it's all hands on deck to get this drill program lifted. And once we've finished some of the initial work at Santa Casio in terms of the regional targeting and the work at Lucita, then we'll begin to shift crews over to the Topal project. I'd like to say that we'll drill there in the next 12 months. The earliest likelihood would be in September 2021. And it's not a lot of drilling that we need to do. So hopefully, like Santa Casio, we could get a 5,000 meter plus program done very quickly.
Right. And just to confirm, you did mention during the presentation that March is kind of the rough time that you would start to expect results to start flowing. Is that correct? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the earliest we're going to see them. We're really at the lab's discretion on when we can get the results back, and it can change. We've had results come back to us as quick as 4 weeks, and we've had results come as slow as 8+ weeks. So We're not battling with the North American explorers right now, or at least the Canadian explorers right now. They've largely submitted their stuff to the lab. We have a prep facility here in Zacatecas, so we're able to get the samples prepped, and then they get shipped to Vancouver for assay. And so it really does depend what the flow of our peers is, and it could be anywhere as 8 weeks, but we've got 1,000 meters plus complete in the drill program. So fingers crossed that March or sometime in March we'll start to have a flow of information, and then from that point on we can expect a fairly steady news flow on this project and our general operational updates.
Great, perfect. And a couple questions relating to the program at San Nicasio. Just wondering if you could provide some color on the condition of the existing underground workings there, and are you able to drill from underground at that project?
The last underground drill program at San Nicasio was 2002, so not too long ago, and actually was a very successful drill program. We actually have some of that drill core, which is good because a project this long, drill core gets lost in the fray. There's kilometers and kilometers and kilometers of underground working. It's been in production for almost 200 years, and some of those are absolutely not usable, and that's largely because the standard of underground workings in the early 1800s is a lot different than when they were in operation in the late 60s, early 70s. In 1995, Silver Standard was down to the lowest level of workings on the property. So we know that in the last 25 years, they've accessed the lowest production levels of the lowest known production levels of the property. That hasn't really been visited for the last 20 years. So the condition is, we know that we can get to about 1.5 kilometers of the main underground haulage level. We have a number of different portals and a number of different adits around the property that are totally accessible, and we have been underground mapping there as well. And then we have a number of different access points that are available as well. The shafts that they use to pull the material out and the other haulage levels, they have been cleaned in the last 30 years. So a pretty good situation, but it is a really wide variety of type of underground workings there. And so it depends. It also depends what the historical miners, they would have basically a visual 500 gram per ton cutoff, and then everything went back into the working. So some of the stopes are still filled with backfill material, around 200 gram per ton backfill material as per our resource estimate, as there is a component of that in our resource estimate. So that does make underground access a little bit different because we do have to deal with this backfill material in some of the stopes.
Okay. And what's the potential to add base metals into the San Nicasio resource? What types of grades are you getting from those metals?
That's a great question, and they have never been tabled in a resource estimate. And with the camp, there's a lot of base metals. I mean, Capstone's a copper silver mine, and Cozamine's a copper silver mine. We have a wide variety of base metal. Base metal results on the property, anywhere from 1.5% combined to over 10% combined. So there is a wide variety, and that's an important component. What we're trying to determine right now is that affinity to certain base metals as per what kind of concentrate you can do on the project. Is certain things report to different things in your concentrates worth more if it's a lead silver concentrate than it is if it's a lead silver or a zinc silver concentrate. In terms of the zonation of the epithermal system, we're trying to really fingerprint where's the gold is associated to zinc mineralization, where's the silver is associated to lead mineralization. Were those two pulses the same system? Are they different systems? And that's part of that whole mineral systems thinking. But there is absolutely an opportunity to include the base metals, and when you do the silver equivalent grade, which isn't necessarily a fair equivalency based on the mine netbacks of base metals compared to precious metals, but when you do a price equivalent on the two, the grade does represent a positive increase, and so it's important to consider what that means in the resource estimate. And we do have base metals around, absolutely.
Okay, and then I guess with the recent acquisition of the Lucida project, you mentioned that you're looking that needs to be kind of a district strategy there. Are you looking to acquire any other properties in that area, or is it kind of happy with the land position you have now?
In my opinion, more is always better. The more mineral licenses you can get, the better. In a district like this, the more you can lock up a district, the better. You're limited in Mexico in the way that you can acquire licenses. So it's really a lot of discussion and third-party acquisition. And so it's at the helm of negotiation. And so while we would like to get as much ground as possible, and I'm a firm believer, it just depends on how our negotiations, if our negotiations and how they can go. And if they can get to a place that allows for any more consolidation, then sure, it's absolutely a consideration. We did, triple our in the last, we went from 2018, we're at 750 hectare property to today over 4,300 hectares. So there has been a lot of consolidation, and we, if the opportunity jumps up, then we'll certainly consider it. And then elsewhere in Mexico, there's a lot of interesting areas. So we'll look at anything, and if anybody puts something in front of us, we take it very seriously and really do rank them as their prospectivity determines.
Perfect. Just kind of turning more to the corporate side, we have a question asking just kind of about listing in the U.S. Maybe you can speak to that, Chris. That might be.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, we have no plans to list in the U.S.
Okay. So with that, I think that kind of addresses all the questions that we've had come in over the line. Maybe just before we wrap up, you can give investors the top couple of reasons to invest in Defiance Silver.
Come on, Doug, you want to.
We have two very unique assets that are advanced and are very unique for a public company of our size. I don't think that we're truly valued for what they mean. T'Pol has a large resource. It has development potential. We're doing a lot of heavy lifting on getting that to a shovel-ready state. Zacatecas has excellent resource potential. It's a very unique asset in a very historic camp, and we're actively drilling. So you have exposure to precious metal, base metal, copper. We have a large resource. We have a large copper resource at T'Pol, and we aim to demonstrate that there's potential to grow that copper resource as well. We're very active, and we have a very, very strong technical team. We have some of the smartest geoscientists that we can get, both nationals and internationals, working on the project right now, and we're well financed to deliver on what we're saying. If you look at what we've set out to do in the last 18 months, we've largely ticked off all those boxes, and if you look at our share price, it has appreciated accordingly.
Perfect. So with that, I think we'll wrap up. So I'd like to thank both Chris and Doug from Defiance Silver for taking the time to host this webinar today with Red Cloud Securities. And thank you to everybody on the line for tuning in.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you very much, Taylor. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this call.
Yep. And just a reminder that our next webinar will feature Compass Gold tomorrow, January 21st at 2 p.m. So thanks again to both of you. Bye now.